Can I place my CO2 nozzle downstream from the valve, or can I split into multiple nozzles after a CO2 valve? Quick answer, no, you cannot do that. The reason being is your valve or your open and close section needs to, in simple terms, needs to be as close to the nozzle as possible. The reason being is when that valve is closed, whether manual or electronic, the pressure is from that valve back to the tank and it's under pressure. The CO2 is under pressure. The second that valve opens, regardless of what type of valve it is, that CO2 sprays out and the conversion happens into a gas. And that's where you get the cold, that's where you get the smoke, what they call it, or the plume. So what ends up happening when you have that valve and then you put a hose on the other end of it to some nozzles that are downstream, or you split it into multiple nozzles? Well, what we found in long time doing this is if you have up to 1 inch after that valve, you're gonna be safe. We just tell you we don't recommend that. You can change the way the nozzle is after the valve, but when you get past 1 inch or when you work on 90-degree turns or anything like that, the problem is this: you're going to get chunks of CO2. The reason being, and think of this when you are designing your system or doing whatever you're doing, you have your valve. When that CO2 sprays out of the valve, if there's anything in that system or that fitting or that hose that would give any type of pressure increase or reduction or back kick from the CO2 going in it, you're going to get what's called dry ice. It's going to flash. It's going to jack itself around in there, for a lack of better words, and then you're going to get chunks of dry ice either build up inside that section or coming out the other end of your nozzle. So in very simple terms, no, you cannot take a valve and split it into multiple nozzles downstream when you have like a foot or 2 feet or 10 feet of hose, anything like that. You can't take a valve and split it into 2 streams or 3 streams right from the valve. You can have a fitting or multiple fittings that does that and does the split. Outside of that, you cannot do that. So that should answer the question, can I have hoses after my valve or split it downstream or have nozzles after my valve that are away from the valve? I want to make sure that that's clear, because yes, you have a valve, you can have 1, 2, or 3 nozzles coming right off the valve. That's what happens all the time. The second you start putting any length of hose or fittings in between those nozzles and that valve, the nozzles being the complete output where the smoke or plume comes out, then you're going to have problems. You're going to start seeing chunks of dry ice. This is CryoFX. Thanks for watching.